Soil pollution. It is defined as the presence of toxic chemicals, pollutants, or contaminants in the soil at a concentration that pose a risk to human health or the ecosystem. These substances can include heavy metals like lead, mercury, cadmium, pesticides, industrial chemicals, and other harmful compounds. Alternatively, soil pollution can be described as any undesirable change in the physical, chemical, or biological properties of soil that causes harmful effects on living organisms. This includes alterations in soil structure, fertility, pH levels, and microbial communities, which can impact plant growth, soil organisms, and ultimately entire ecosystems. Although the majority of pollutants have anthropogenic origins, some contaminants can occur naturally in soils as components of minerals and can be toxic at high concentrations. Certain elements and compounds naturally occur in soil as part of minerals. Examples include heavy metals like arsenic, cadmium, and lead, which can be present in soil due to geological processes or weathering of rock. While these elements may be naturally occurring, they can become pollutants if their concentrations exceed safe levels. High concentrations of naturally occurring heavy metals, for instance, can be toxic to plants, animals, and humans if they enter the food chain or they leach into groundwater. The majority of soil pollutants originate from human activities such as industrial emissions, agricultural practices, urbanization, and improper waste disposal. These activities introduces chemicals and substances into the soil that can significantly change its composition and pose risks to environment and human health. The soil pollution, it is often challenging to assess directly or visually perceive. Unlike air or water pollution, which may exhibit immediate visual indications like smog or discolored water, soil contamination is less observable. Pollutants may be present at levels that are not immediately detectable without specialized testing and analysis. Soil pollutants can persist for long periods, affecting soil fertility, biodiversity, and groundwater quality. They can also accumulate in food crops, posing health risk to humans through ingestion or inhalation of contaminated soil particles. So, the hidden nature of soil pollution emphasizes the importance of regular monitoring, soil testing, and implementing preventive measures to mitigate contamination risk. Industrial wastes. So disposal of industrial waste, it is the major problem for soil pollution, and there are various sources from which industrial wastes or industrial pollutants are mainly discharged, such as pulp and paper mills, oil refineries, sugar factories, tanneries, textiles, steel distilleries, fertilizers, etc. So what effect it have on the soil? So these pollutants, they can cause chemical alterations. Industrial pollutants contain a variety of toxic chemicals, heavy metals, organic compounds, and other substances that can alter the chemical composition of the soil. These pollutants may include arsenic, lead, mercury, benzene, PCBs, and dioxins, and many others. Biological impacts. Soil pollution disrupts the biological properties of soil by affecting microbial communities, nutrient cycling processes, and the overall soil ecosystem. Human health risks. Hazardous chemicals from polluted soil. It can enter the human food chain through crops grown in contaminated soil or through contaminated groundwater, which is used for irrigation. This exposure can lead to serious health effects, including cancer, neurological disorders, reproductive issues, and many other diseases. Urban waste. Now, urban waste, which includes both commercial and domestic sources, contributes significantly to soil pollution, primarily through the disposal of Solid waste materials. Urban solid waste, often referred to as refuse, encompasses a wide variety of materials discarded by households, businesses, and institutions. This refuse includes organic waste from kitchens and food preparation, non-organic waste such as plastic, glass, metal cans, fibers, papers, street sweepings, fuel residues, leaves, containers, abandoned vehicles, and other discarded manufactured products. Now, how it impacts the soil? When solid waste is disposed of in landfills or improperly managed dump sites, so rainwater and moisture can percolate through the waste, creating leachate. This leachate contains dissolved chemicals and pollutants from decomposing organic matter and various materials within the waste. Leachate can alter the chemical composition of soil, introducing harmful substances such as heavy metals, organic compounds, and pathogens into the soil environment. Decomposition process within solid waste can also affect soil microbial communities and nutrient cycling processes, potentially altering soil fertility and ecosystem functions. Radioactive substances resulting from nuclear testing, laboratories, and industries pose a significant risk of soil pollution due to their ability to penetrate and accumulate in the soil. Explosions from nuclear testing release radioactive particles into the atmosphere, which settle onto soil surfaces. Industries and laboratories that handle radioactive materials may also release radioactive wastes into the environment, including soil. Some radioactive elements they occur naturally in soil due to geological processes. For example, radium, thorium, uranium, which can emit radiation over long periods. Anthropogenic sources of radioactive nuclides. Human activities contribute additional radioactive substances to soil, such as strontium-90, iodine-129, cesium-137, and isotopes of elements like iron. These substances are often produced as byproducts of nuclear reactions, industrial processes, and accidents involving radioactive materials. Now, what effect it will have on the soil? Radioactive, radioactive substances, they penetrate into the soil layers and accumulate over the time, especially in areas close to nuclear facilities or sites of nuclear accidents. Radioactive contaminants pose serious health risks as they emit ionizing radiation, which can damage the living tissues and increase the risk of cancer, genetic mutations, and other health problems in exposed populations. Plants and organisms can absorb radioactive substances from the contaminated soil, leading to bioaccumulation and potential entry into the food chain. Excess use of fertilizers and pesticides. Approximately 25% of the world's crop yield is estimated to be directly attributable to chemical fertilizers, the use of which is rising significantly every year. Now, chemical fertilizers, they are essential because they replace the nutrients, particularly macronutrients, that plants extract from the soil as they grow. These fertilizers play a crucial role in modern agriculture by replenishing essential nutrients in the soil that are depleted through plant uptake. Then there are macronutrients and micronutrients. So the primary nutrients which is required in relatively large quantities by the plants are macronutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Then micronutrients are required in small amounts, but they are equally essential for plant growth and health. Examples include boron, zinc, manganese. Then, when crops are harvested, they remove significant amounts of macronutrients and smaller amounts of micronutrients from the soil. Over time, if these nutrients are not replenished, soil fertility can decline, impacting crop yields and overall agricultural productivity. With global agricultural demands rising, the use of chemical fertilizers has been increasing, to maintain and boost crop yields. However, this also raises concerns about environmental impacts such as nutrient runoff into water bodies and greenhouse gas emissions associated with fertilizer production. When the same crop is grown repeatedly on the same land, the soil's nutrient levels can become depleted. This depletion occurs because each crop cycle absorbs nutrients from the soil, and if these nutrients are not replenished, future crop yields will decrease. To address this, farmers often apply fertilizers to restore the necessary nutrients in the soil. Agricultural production heavily relies on the use of chemical fertilizers because many of the high yielding crop varieties are specifically developed to respond well to these fertilizers. However, the continuous use of chemical fertilizers can lead to decline in the soil health. Over time, soils that are regularly treated with chemical fertilizers can lose their natural properties, leading to issues such as reduced fertility, poor soil structure, decreased microbial activity. Furthermore, certain types of chemical fertilizers like ammonium sulfate, ammonium chloride, and urea, they can lower the soil pH, making it more acidic. Acidic soils can be detrimental to crop growth because they can limit the availability of essential nutrients and negatively affect the soil microorganisms. As a result, it is important for farmers to manage fertilizer application carefully and consider incorporating organic matter and other soil management practices to maintain soil health and productivity. In addition to fertilizers, a large amount of pesticides are also used. Now, the pesticides are chemicals which are designed to kill or control populations of unwanted organisms, commonly known as pests. These pests can include insects, fungi, weeds, and other organisms that threaten agricultural productivity. While pesticides effectively manage pests, they can also harm non-target organisms, including beneficial insects, wildlife, and potentially humans. This damage harms both the environment and human health. Now, pesticides, they can be classified into persistent and non-persistent. Persistent pesticides remain effective for extended periods after application because they do not break down easily in the environment. Instead, they tend to accumulate in the soil and can bioaccumulate in the bodies of organisms across the food chain. This process, known as biomagnification, means that higher level predators may accumulate higher concentrations of these pesticides over the time. Let's understand bioaccumulation and biomagnification. What is the difference between these two? So bioaccumulation is the process by which toxins enter the food web by building up in individual organisms, while biomagnification is the process by which toxins are passed from one trophic level to the next, and thereby increase in concentration takes place within the food web. So the major difference between these two is in bioaccumulation, it focuses on the accumulation of substances within individual organisms. In case of biomagnification, the focus is on the increase in concentration of substances as they move from one trophic level to the next trophic level in the food web. Let's understand with the help of example. So you can see this bioaccumulation. Now, it refers to the process by which contaminants build up in an organism over the time. Now, this part of the image, it shows fish accumulating the contaminants as they grow. Over time, the contaminant levels within each fish is increasing. This occurs because the fish are exposed to the contaminants continuously, often from their environment or through their diet, and they retain these substances in their tissues. So it occurs in the individual organism. Then second is biomagnification. Now it refers to increase in concentration of contaminants as they move up in the food chain. Now this part of image shows a food chain starting with small organisms like plankton that have contaminants. These small organisms are eaten by the fish, which are then eaten by large predators like seals, and finally by top predators like polar bears. At each step up the food chain, the contaminant levels increase, leading to the highest concentration in the top predators. So you can see here increase in concentration of substances take place as you move from one trophic level to the next trophic level. Many pesticides are designed to kill a wide range of organisms, including both the harmful pests and the beneficial species, such as predators and parasitic insects that naturally control the pest populations. This indiscriminate killing can disrupt ecological balance by reducing the population of natural predators and parasites that help keep pest population in check. After pesticides are used, the number of pests might go down at first because the pests they die. However, if there are no natural predators or parasites to keep their numbers in check, the pest can quickly come back in large numbers, and this is known as pest resurgence. It happens because without the natural enemies, these pests can multiply rapidly and can cause bigger problems. Then short-term and long-term health effects on the persons using the pesticides and the public that consumes the food grown by using the pesticides are also major concerns. Pesticide exposure poses immediate health risk to agricultural workers who handle these chemicals during the application. Acute effects can include skin irritation, respiratory issues, and neurological symptoms if proper safety measures are not followed. And exposure to small quantities of pesticides over several years can cause cancers. Salinity of water. Now, irrigated lands they can achieve higher crop yields than those lands which only use rainwater because crops have access to consistent water supply throughout the growing season. This allows farmers to grow crops in regions where rainfall alone may not be sufficient to support the plant growth. Now, irrigation water often contain dissolved salts such as sodium chloride and others. In arid or semi-arid regions where irrigation is common, much of the water evaporates, leaving salts behind in the soil. Over time, these salts accumulate in the topsoil, a process which is known as salinization. High concentrations of salts in the soil can hinder plant growth and development. Salt accumulation interferes with the plant's ability to take up water and essential nutrients, leading to stunted growth, reduced crop yields, and in severe cases, crop failure as well. Continued salt accumulation can render land unsuitable for agriculture as the soil becomes increasingly saline and plants cannot survive over there. This degradation of agricultural land limits future productivity and can have long-term economic as well as environmental consequences. To reduce soil salinity, farmers can practice leaching, which involves applying excess water to the soil to flush out salts below the root zone. This process helps to temporarily improve soil quality and restore crop productivity. While leaching is effective, but it requires significant amounts of water, which increases the cost of crop production. Moreover, excessive water use for leaching can lead to water wastage and environmental concerns, especially in regions where water resources are limited. Soil erosion. It refers to the process where the top layer of the soil is moved from one location to another by natural forces such as wind and water or by various human activities. So natural causes of erosion includes factors like wind and water runoff. These forces gradually wear down exposed soil surfaces over the time. And human activities include like farming, intensive agricultural practices such as tilling, monocropping, and improper irrigation increase soil exposure to erosion. Construction, clearing land for construction sites removes vegetation that holds soil in place, making it susceptible to erosion. Overgrazing, livestock grazing beyond the carrying capacity of the land reduces the vegetation cover, exposing soil to erosion. Deforestation and burning, removing trees for logging or burning vegetation for land clearance reduces the root systems that stabilize soil, leading to erosion. Now, what are the effects of soil erosion? First is loss of fertility. The topsoil, which is rich in organic matter and nutrients, it is the most fertile layer. Erosion removes this nutrient-rich layer, reducing soil fertility and agricultural productivity. Then reduced water holding capacity. Soil erosion reduces the soil's ability to retain the water. This increases surface runoff and reduces infiltration, contributing to water scarcity and drought conditions. Then sediments eroded from the soil can wash into water bodies, causing sedimentation. This sedimentation increases water turbidity, reducing light penetration and oxygen levels, which is very important for aquatic life. It also carries pollutants like fertilizers and pesticides, impacting the water quality. Now, topsoil formation is a slow process. It normally requires 200 to 1000 years depending on the climate and soil type. Now, if erosion rates is more than the natural formation rate of the soil, then soil becomes a non-renewable source.